Let's just jump straight into it, shall we? Today's video is going to be about the echidnas. And by echidnas, I mean the short-beaked and the long-beaked echidnas. There are two types. Actually, 4 different individual species of echidnas, but 2 types, the short-beaked and 3 long-beaked, and they're part of the monotremes, which is the only other living member is the platypus. So let's dive into it. So I've got these 2 stickers here, which are from the same shop, obviously. One's bigger and one's small. They're exactly the same sticker. I will link all the details of the shop down below and the artist, and I'm just going to jump into it and use these 2 as like a mother and a baby or something like that, because they're exactly the same sticker, just small and large. So let's get some supplies organised and then I'll tell you some facts about the echidnas. I'm just going to move these aside. I'm not really sure which order I'm going to do these in, but I have probably got way too many. So I guess I'll work that out as I go. We'll just stick these down and see how we go. Okay, so these guys in the picture here, I want to say are a short-beaked echidna. Yeah, I don't have an image of the long-beaked echidnas, but they are very similar looking at these guys. So one of the differences between these guys is that the long-beaked echidnas are mostly nocturnal, meaning they are active at night, but the short-beaked echidna is quite active during the day here in Australia. So that is one big difference between them, because obviously they hunt at different times. And the short-beaked echidnas are crepuscular, meaning they are active at dawn and dusk. So there's just another little interesting bit there. I'm just going to rip some of this and have it cover both pages, because I want to be a little bit more coherent with the decorating. Now I'm just doing this thing called stick and plonk because I just want to go for it. I don't want to overthink where I put things too much. I don't want to stress if there's wrinkles or little mistakes, because that is literally a part of nature, making mistakes. So when I stick and plonk, I'm just going for it. I'm not being too precious. I'm not being too full on with it, not too precise. So another thing I will just quickly, very briefly mention is that yes, I do have a disability, and that has nothing to do with the videos or who I am as a person, but I just wanted to quickly mention that because sometimes I might shake a little bit on screen when I'm holding something, or there might be a little funny little instance in my hands. I actually struggle with fine and gross motor skills, so that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's move on. Alright, so another interesting fact is that all echidnas can actually swim really well. A lot of the times in floods and big emergencies, things that happen a lot here in Australia, if there are floods, echidnas are often seen swimming and saving themselves. They are seen fairly often travelling through rivers, just jumping in and swimming because obviously they need to get somewhere. But it's it's a fact that a lot of people, I think, aren't aware of, that they are very good swimmers. So, as well as other names for these guys, I think in Australia they're just known as echidnas. I don't think we would really call them anything else. Just so echidnas are our local anteaters because they literally eat ants, but they look nothing like an anteater itself. Maybe I'll do a video on anteaters one day. But for now, we're doing echidna. Attenborough's long-beaked echidnas are also named Payanko. I've probably butchered that, but that's what the locals call it in New Guinea. Western long-beaked have been called the New Guinean echidnas, and the eastern long-beaked are also called Barton's long-beaked echidnas. So, mentioning that, let's quickly break down the scientific names because this is what tells us a lot about why they're called Bartons or New Guinean, that sort of thing. So these three species are found in New Guinea, but the eastern is more common than the western, and this is why they have these different names. They are all slightly different animals in themselves. So we have Tachyglossus aculeatus, which is tachy means, this is the short-beaked echidna, I'm sorry. Tachyglossus aculeatus. We have tachy or tachy, which means fast in Greek, and we have glossa, which means tongue, so fast tongue. And then aculeatus means spiny in Latin. So this just refers to the echidna's quick, long, sticky tongue and spiny body. So that's it for the short beak. And then we have the long beaked, which is Zaglossus. So that's their species name. They're Zaglossus, so za means through or across, and glossa again just means tongue. So this just refers to their distinctive long snouts. Now the three long-beaked echidnas, we have Zaglossus brugni, named after the Dutch botanist Bruggen. So I'll put it on screen. I don't know if I'm reading it wrong or I just can't pronounce it, but it's a Dutch word and I have no hope, I'm sorry. But then we have the eastern long-beaked, which is the Zaglossus bartoni, named after another naturalist, George Barton. So he would have been the guy who not necessarily discovered it, but who described it in texts and that sort of thing. So we also have, I'm just going to fill some of these in with stickers. We also have the Attenborough's long-beaked, which, as you may have guessed, is named after Sir David Attenborough, the naturalist, well-known naturalist, still going strong today, making documentaries and that sort of thing. He's very well known, and yes, this echidna is named after him because he was obviously very inspiring. So this one is just Zaglossus attenboroughi. Zaglossus attenboroughi. Okay, so that's that guy there. I'm just gonna stick a little bit of green. Okay, and we don't want to confuse these guys with anteaters, but also porcupines and hedgehogs. Now porcupines have more of a quill, which is a long needle-like point, whereas these ones are more like a fingernail with the thickness, but it is a lot more like your fingernail, or like a dog or a cat nail claw. That's what these spines are like for these guys, but they are longer. But a porcupine is completely different again. Their spines are massive. They're about this long. They're very needle sharp, whereas these guys, they're still sharp, but they're blunt compared to a porcupine. Back to echidnas. These guys are just very different from hedgehogs, anteaters, that sort of thing. Very, very different animals, and porcupines. All very interesting in their own right, but yes, these guys are monotremes and very unique from those other animals, and there are many reasons why. So basically, long-beaked echidna looks like the gangly cousin of the short-beaked echidna. Long-legged and just out of proportion than the short-beaked echidna. Now, short-beaked echidna to me is just very cute and cuddly and sweet. They're obviously very spiny, but the long-beaked echidna is quite just robust looking, and the short-beaked echidna just looks much more in proportion if you compare the two, or the long and short beaks. Then it just looks way more in proportion. It's got short legs, a stocky body, and a long snout, but the snout is in proportion with the rest of its body. Whereas long-beaked echidnas have longer legs and longer snouts compared to the short-beaked echidna. And it's just, it looks different compared to their body. Their legs are longer, but their body's a bit stumpier. Whereas this guy has the stumpy legs and the stumpy body to go with it. So all echidnas have backwards facing back feet. It actually doesn't show it in this one as well. I mean, it's probably showing it a little bit, but they actually have paddles that, well, not paddles, but claws that bend backwards like that. So if the echidna, if it's this one, they actually bend back like that. So when they walk, they sort of waddle, and this is what they use to scoop dirt backwards out of their burrow. And their front feet are facing forward. They have the big claws like this. So they use the front claws to dig, and then the back claws to sort of push it out more to build the burrow. And males actually have spurs on their back feet as well. These spurs are non-venomous. I don't know, you may have heard of spurs on a platypus as well. It seems to be a monotreme thing. But they are not venomous on a male. We believe that they're just for mating and that sort of thing. So that's why those spurs are on their back feet. But that's how you sort of tell a male from a female. males have these spurs. Okay, so we have the short-beaked. They can get up between 30 and 45 centimetres, or 12 to 18 inches big, and that's about 2 to 7 kilos, or 4 to 15 pounds. So they actually vary a lot in colour. Their spines and the fur between their spines can come out as lots of different colours. It can come out dark brown, medium brown, even light brown or red, and there have been quite a number of albino echidnas also spotted in the wild of the short-beaked echidnas. Now, looking at a map of Australia, South Australia, you can get a lot of much darker coloured echidnas, so like almost black, dark browns, sort of medium browns. And then in the eastern states, so Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland even, you get medium to lighter brown colours. So sort of this one I'd say is a medium kind of brown. But some you get like this sort of really dark brown, even like a black sort of colour. So they vary, and I have seen a number of different colours just locally in Victorian echidnas. Echidnas from southeast Queensland can be a lot lighter and almost look like they have blonde highlights. I'll try to put up some photos on screen, so that should be showing them properly there. And that's because they're in the year-round sun, the different heat. Obviously, they have a darker colouring to absorb more heat in the cooler climates, and the warmer areas, they've better adapted to have a lighter colour, so they don't absorb as much of that heat. So pure white and even red-headed echidnas have been spotted on Kangaroo Island and in different areas where they're found. Usually though, they are just a light to medium dark brown throughout New South Wales, Western Australia, Tasmania, Northern Territory, and here in Victoria, where I am. So now moving on to the long-beaked echidnas, they can get up to 45 to 78 centimetres in length, or 18 to 31 inches, and can be around 5 to 16 kilos, or 11 to 36 pounds. Except for the Attenborough's long-beaked echidna, it only gets between 2 and 3 kilos, or 5 pounds. So the eastern and western long-beaked are quite a bit bigger than the short-beaked echidna, so 30 to 45 centimetres is short-beaked, and the long-beaks are 45 to 78 centimetres, so quite a bit bigger, and that's 5 to 16 kilos, whereas the short-beaked is 2 to 7, so they can vary quite a lot. So here in Australia, the short-beaked echidnas are very cute and cuddly and compact, whereas the long-beaked in New Guinea and Indonesia is just more robust, and they're good climbers and foragers, so they're very rough and tough, sort of out in the bush out there. So the long-beaked echidna also has fewer, sparser, even shorter spines than the short-beaked echidna, and the snout is much bigger than the head length. Now it just occurred to me that I've only got one label, but I'm doing 4 different echidnas. So I'm wondering if I call this guy the short-beaked echidna, and then this guy long-beaked because it's bigger. Yeah, I think I might do that. So I might need about 3 labels for this guy. So let's talk quickly about the diet of these guys. So Termites and ants are the main things these guys eat. So they will also eat beetles, worms and other invertebrates, which is just insects. The western long-beaked echidnas prefer worms and grubs, so they like to dig through the dirt and eat those kinds of things. The short-beaked echidnas in Australia I've mostly seen them eat ants. We're always fed something like a supplement shake. So I've actually fed a lot of echidnas in captivity, and I've worked in both zoos and in foster homes where young animals are looked after their parents have been hit by a car or something like that. And I've done a lot of work with those in zoos and just people who are volunteers and have collected them from sides of the roads and stuff. And they are notoriously hard to keep and feed in captivity because it's just way too hard to do that with echidnas. So when I used to make up the food for echidnas in zoos and stuff, I would combine, now I think it was raw meat, which is just mincemeat, and it was usually chicken or beef. I think it depended on the day, they just changed it around. Bran cereal, oil, eggs and water. Also vitamin and mineral powders. Now I have seen different ones where they add in cat food or dog food. I have never fed other animal food like that myself, but I have done definitely the bran cereal, the oil and raw meat. Sometimes I've added cooked eggs, sometimes raw. I believe cooked eggs is just better for their digestion, and it has like the little bits in it that are similar to an ant, like the crunchy ant. But yeah, they can concoct up a lot of different blends, which sort of comes out as a thick smoothie. Out if you need to. And they lap that up, they love it. So I think a mixture of the oil and water and obviously the mincemeat flavour gives them it's really good for their tongue, really easy for them to slurp up. So these shakes, protein kind of shake is will do for them in the short term. It's not a problem, but they're not great in the long term, and they have caused problems in captive echidnas that have like lived long term in captivity, such as gastritis and obesity. So it's not great for their weight and their digestive system. So in captivity, this food is fed out to echidnas in bowls, spoons, or in specialised tubes and tunnels made from plastic or concrete, and sometimes placed in like a man-made termite mound or anthill. They've worked out a lot of different things in captivity with these guys. And they're just designed to replicate a wild ant nest. So they would stick their tongue in there like they would with ants, and they suck up this protein shake paste. And yeah, echidnas fall under this group of what we call myrmecophages. So they are just animals that primarily feed on ants and termites. And these include animals like echidnas, aardvarks, numbats here again in Australia, anteaters again, and some armadillos and pangolins. There are also various birds, amphibians and reptiles across the world that prefer these animals. So to develop a diet that works well would be beneficial to a lot of different. My battery and my SD card ran out too, so it's been some time since I last recorded. Just catch myself and the video back up. I have just written in the common and scientific names for the short-beaked echidna, the two eastern and western long-beaked echidnas, and Sir David Attenborough's long-beaked echidna. That was a lot of writing just for that one animal. Attenborough is not an easy name to write over and over. So this is the spread that I've done so far, and I'm probably going to pretty much leave it at that. I might just put down a few little black and white bits, but otherwise I think we're done. So I'm just going to quickly talk through some more information, so I just cover everything, and yeah, then we'll be done with the video. Amazingly, after all this time I've spent off camera, hopefully the end result is worth it for all my rambling. Anyway, so I just explained a bit about the echidna's diet in captivity, and I was briefly going through all the different animals that eat a similar diet as the echidnas. So there is a need to develop this diet for captive animals. And these myrmecophages, which are these termite and anteaters, are found in zoos worldwide. So to get their diet right is a good idea, really good on the books, even for just injured animals that are in hospital, just so that they can sustain them even in the short term. It's good to have these diets down pat. So and not much else. So that's interesting. In the wild, they are often found in and around rocks, hollow logs, under tree roots, under bushes, and in tussocks of grass. They can dig themselves into the ground tightly when under threat and are very difficult to move. I've tried myself, and I've had to try to move these guys when I've been out in enclosures and out in the wild doing testing and stuff on these echidnas. They're really difficult once they get a stronghold and they know where they're gonna dig. They are very difficult to get out. So it's amazing. They actually just dig right in, and then they can cling into the dirt. They can get a really good stronghold on that that litter, like leaf litter or ground. They can be shy, but they can also be very friendly and even stubborn. I have worked with a lot of echidnas, and once they know that you've got the food, they won't leave you alone. No. So distribution wise, the short-beaked echidna is found all across Australian states. They are Australia's most widespread native mammal. You would think that would be kangaroo, but echidnas are actually found on a few islands that kangaroos haven't naturally been found on. And this could possibly be because they're good swimmers. We don't know exactly, but they have definitely evolved to live pretty much Australia-wide on many different islands. And then we go into the three long-beaked echidnas. They are just found in different parts of New Guinea. I will put a map up on the screen, but basically they're found in cool, high-altitude mountainous forests. So a bit different to short-beaked echidnas. Short-beaked echidnas are found all over Australia in all different climates. They can be found in high-altitude alpine regions, but they can also be found like down near the beach. They're quite versatile with that sort of thing, but long-beaked echidnas are mostly found in the cool, high-altitude mountainous forests in New Guinea and Indonesia. So eastern long-beaked echidnas can inhabit tropical hill forest to subalpine forests, and as well as grasslands and scrub, but they just tend to be at that high altitude, but they will wander to tropical hilly areas for looking for food. Vegetation or in underground burrows, that's the eastern. The western long-beaked echidna found in Papua New Guinea West and Indonesia. So they're in a different area, which is more the Papua New Guinea, which is the western part of New Guinea, and then Indonesia, which is still kind of part of the same country. Look, the history there is gets very political and that sort of thing. But where echidnas are concerned, I'll put up a picture of the map of where exactly they're found in the eastern, western, and the Attenboroughs. So in Australia, but the western long-beaked echidna and Sir David Attenborough's long-beaked echidna are both critically endangered. The eastern long-beaked echidna is vulnerable, so it's 2 steps up from critically endangered if you're going to be specific, but it's still not great. Not common, certainly not common. The echidnas in New Guinea and Indonesia have been traditionally hunted. So this is something that is really hard to break, a habit that's really hard to break with the local indigenous people. We just traditionally have hunted echidnas, and there are different rituals and different things that involve echidnas, so it's a factor in why they are sort of getting endangered. Habitat loss is also a huge factor, such as for farming and mining. Attenborough's echidnas were thought extinct up to 2011, and now a nature reserve has actually been created to help protect the species. And I had actually researched all this information before I found out that only 2 specimens have been found to date of the Attenborough's echidna, the long-beaked echidna. So that's interesting. They were actually thought extinct until 2011, and since then I believe only 1 specimen has been found, and I believe the other one was found before 2011. So they really have no idea of many of their behaviours, their mating behaviour, their feeding behaviour. They seem to prefer the grub-like worms and grubs and witchetty grubs, that sort of thing. So they prefer to, dig into the dirt for their prey, you could say. But really we don't know much about Attenborough's echidnas because of these 2 specimens that have only been found. And by specimens, I'm not really sure if they're alive or dead. But there has been echidna parks, I believe they're called. If not, I'll put the right terminology on the screen. But they have found evidence of Attenborough's echidnas in the wild because they find a distinct pattern of the way they poke the ground for their favourite prey, which is worms and grubs. So knowing that, they have been able to educate the locals and the public, and there is a lot more focus on preserving these animals and working in and around this nature reserve to get all that sorted. So that is pretty much my video for the echidnas. I know it's been a long one, I'm sorry. I tried to get the information out as efficiently as possible, but yeah, sometimes it's not easy to do that. I I've been covering 4 separate echidna species today, so hopefully it came out okay. And yeah, I just want to thank you so much for watching my videos. I'm slowly getting views built up, and it's really good. It'll be really great if I can continue doing this, because I do really enjoy researching and working on these videos. The short-beaked echidna, Tachyglossus aculeatus, and the western long-beaked echidna, Zaglossus bringini, and the eastern long-beaked echidna, Zaglossus bartoni, and Sir David Attenborough's long-beaked, Zaglossus attenboroni. So there's that page, and see, I've tried to get some of the alpine sort of forest and bushlands regions sort of displayed. Now I've put sort of a sunset, sunrise, not going into nighttime, coming out of nighttime scene for both species of echidna. So we have the short-beaked, which are mostly crepuscular, which is evening and early morning, and we've got the long-beaked echidnas, which are usually active at night, nocturnal, so I thought that was a good scene to portray that. And yeah, we've just got some native looking sort of bush here. I feel like this is a bit of a tea tree looking plant. Some of these here maybe a bit tropical or bottle brush. Yeah, so I hope you like this spread, and thank you so much for watching. Bye.